Hi everyone, welcome back and good evening. Well, good night because it's like 9 o'clock here where I am. Now, it was 9:30 actually. I know on the East Coast, you guys probably are knocked the fuck out as you should be because tomorrow is Friday, so it's still a work week, still a work day, work night. But for me, I'm off on tomorrow, and so this is actually a topic that I've been wanting to do, and it has been on my mind. I just haven't really got around to it. So I do have like a lot of different topics kind of floating around my mind that I haven't really had the time to address, or just kind of wanted to collect my thoughts on it before I begin to talk about it. And now I finally have the time to do it. So, the psychology of terrorism. I know y'all probably like, what in the hell? What in terrorism? Is like, oh no, don't talk about terrorism. It's very dangerous. What's up? I don't even know how to pronounce your name. I be seeing you a lot. Quardier? Did I say that right? Quardier? Quardier Julian? What's up? Good evening. So yeah, it's like terrorism is like this taboo topic. Like, you gotta be careful, what you say and how you say things around surrounding the topic of terrorism, because it's terrorism, it's a federal crime and serious consequences associated with terrorism. So I'm very mindful of that as I'm speaking. But I want to talk about terrorism from a psychological perspective, because I just feel like in our society, of course, we put all these labels on people, and oftentimes we label and we condemn what we don't quite understand sometimes. And sometimes obviously it's a crime like terrorism, it's a horrific crime, and people suffer, at the hands of terrorism. So I'm not trying to say, oh, we should all just be so understanding and compassionate and empathic, towards terrorists. I'm not saying that, but it does help, because I feel like in order to call ourselves trying to control a behavior, we first got to understand it. How can we control terrorism if we don't get it, right? You have to understand the mind of a terrorist. Not that I'm a terrorist, but I think I've been doing some thinking, and part of that is somewhat trying to put myself in the shoes of a terrorist, because in order to understand the mind of a terrorist, you have to kind of position yourself, kind of like empathy, what I was talking about earlier today, is like position yourself in the mind of that other person. Maybe think about what led up to them committing certain acts, what their mind was at that point in time, like what were they thinking, right? And for a lot of people, they just can't position themselves to be in that point. Whereas I like to challenge myself to position myself in the shoes in many different people's minds, Like, you'll have some therapists say, I can never work with criminals. I can't work with people who commit sexual assault, sex offenders, because they just don't understand them. It's like there's no excuse for it. I don't get it. I don't want to be around them. Those are the kind of people I don't want to work with, right? But for me, and it's interesting, I just had my meeting with my practicum director today, and she's wanting to know, like, what kind of population I want to work with for my APA internship. And I told her probably something that she may not be used to hearing, because I said I'm pretty much open to working with a variety of populations. I don't look at it like, oh, I want to work with people who are depressed, or I want to work with teenagers. Now, I do have a passion for teenagers, but it's not like I necessarily have a specific preference, because I'm just pretty much open. I look at it like people are people, and if people need help, I feel like that's where I come in. Like, I want to be of service to just work with people and help people, and just help the nation, so to speak. Just help the world, like give back, right? Which is, I think, a lot of our dreams kind of going into this field of mental health, is like we just want to save the world. And I still kind of have that. I haven't given up, right? I feel like, even helping one person can help save the world. So here I am coming to you guys, talking to you about my perspective on terrorism. And I think what initially sparked my interest in this topic, this video topic, is there was an recent incident, kind of recent anyway, at my school here in California, where we take this class, right, in our program, Intercultural Processes class. It's a pretty intense class. You have people from many different ethnic backgrounds. We're learning about culture. We're learning about differences in culture, you know. And when I had already taken the class back in 2016, so this particular class that I'm talking about here in this video is in reference to a cohort that came, I think, like 2 years after mine. And so, or maybe 1 year after mine, the following year. But anyway, this kid, it was a class, basically, intercultural processes class. And in the class, they were expected to bring like a cultural artifact, something that represents part of them, their culture. And from what I hear, because it was kind of like a story kind of going around about what happened with this situation, right? Which really had me thinking. I was like, damn, that's fucked up. But basically, I'm kind of give you guys a gist of kind of what happened. So in the intercultural process class, the teacher, said to the class, I guess, bring like something that represents you. Kind of similar to what she did or he did for my cohort, right? Bring something that represents you. I think for me, I remember I brought my magazine because I'm the owner of a magazine, a print magazine called Ubawa, which is in line with my organization that I founded. It's a literary organization designated to promote self-published underrepresented authors. Ubawa, UBAWA, stands for Urban Books, Authors, and Writers of America. So that was like my cultural artifact, something that represented me. And even when I brought that, people were like, how does this speak to you? It says a lot about me, but they didn't get it. I feel like a lot of times I'm just misunderstood. Like a lot of stuff just go over people's head as it relates to me. So it kind of went over their head. There was some questions like, well, I don't think this is a cultural artifact. This doesn't represent your culture. I guess it was expecting me to bring in something, I don't know, African American. But when you think about it, the magazine is targeted towards African American. It's targeted towards self-published authors, but amazingly, and I kind of like this, that who it attracted is African American authors. Being that the owner is African American, what do you expect? So yes, predominantly our target market is African American. So I don't know. I'm like, that speaks to my culture. That speaks to me. That says a lot about me as a person, because I'm a writer myself. So that was my cultural artifact that I brought in during my year in that particular class. But there was, from what I hear, an Asian student, male Asian student, who brought in a cultural artifact. And the cultural artifact was a sword. And so I'm like, okay, big deal. He brought in the sword, big deal. People collect swords, big fucking deal. And this is, I look at like, this is a PhD program. So there should be a degree of trust that we are adults, we're not criminals, so to speak. Our intentions are not to harm anybody. You asked us to do this assignment and people are just being honest. He was just showing himself, trying to at least, right? And so I guess after that incident, there was something that happened. So I don't know the quite full details. I'm kind of telling you guys the gist because this is what was given to me like several months ago. So after that incident, that when he brought in the cultural artifacts like show and tell, from what I hear, there was some kind of misunderstanding, I guess, in class between him and some female students. And then from that misunderstanding resulted in some type of parking lot encounter where these female students or a female student was in the parking lot, and then the guy student had approached her in the parking lot. I'm like, okay, big deal. Now, granted, I'm probably speaking from limited information because, like I said, my analysis of what happened, which I'm giving you guys, is just based on the information that I'm kind of regurgitating from what I heard given to you guys. So they may have been more details of the story that I'm not aware of, but we'll see. So she was going to her car, and I guess he followed her because apparently he had something he had to get off his chest. Now, I don't know if he had his artifact, his sword with him or not, right? But he followed her to the parking lot, and somehow she was afraid. Like, she felt afraid, I guess, because he was pursuing her. From her perspective, she was afraid, right? This is a guy, Asian guy. He got these swords. She's afraid. But from his perspective, which I'm going to talk about in this video, because I feel like it was just dismissed. Like, people just like, okay, she made this report, and I'm going to get to that point. And then people just threw out his side of the story. But from his perspective, which I kind of want to focus on, and which I was really drawn to when I heard his story, was that he followed her maybe just to kind of explain himself, you know, or try to tie the end to the conversation, because apparently he had something that he still wanted to say to her. And I guess she felt intimidated or disrespected, you know, or under attack perceivably. And from that encounter in the parking lot, she went and reported to the program director what happened, that she was afraid for her safety and I guess felt disrespected or kind of under attack by this guy. And when I asked questions to the person who told me this story, and I was like, okay, did he put hands on her? No. Did he threaten her verbally? No. Okay, so, and what gave her the impression that he was a danger that led her to make a report? Still no answer. Other than the fact that he brought in this cultural artifact, some swords. I'm like, and he was an Asian male, you know, and of course there's certain stereotypes along with Asians that go the same thing for African Americans. People have this perception of African Americans. It's just like the reason why so many black men, innocent black men, are shot and killed by the police. Because they holding an object that looks like a gun. There's this perception that black people are violent. And so what happens? People automatically react in a certain way. Like, oh, we got to do something because this person is dangerous. It's like, person that probably won't even hurt a fly. You know? So, yeah, that was a perception that this Asian guy, he's a threat. So she reported it. And the outcome of that was that he was dismissed from the program. And this was, I think, his very first semester in the program. Now, I did feel some kind of way when I heard that. I'm like, damn, that's fucked up. And the person that's telling me the story, I guess she felt probably like, why are you taking his side? But I don't know. I think differently from most people. And I'm just like, based on that limited information, they take her side and kick him out of the program. I just don't feel like that's fair. I really don't, because number one, I feel like they didn't even hear his side of the story. She had a complaint, and they followed suit with her complaint, and to minimize her fear, because she probably was all exaggerated. No, I'm afraid for my life, and then she enlisted, you know, the support of all these other the female students who, you know, came to her rescue and support or whatever. And I guess they attested to they felt threatened for their safety too. And so it seemed like, to me, just like I said, based on information that I received about this story, they colluded against him. And because there's power in numbers, and obviously there's power in women's stories, and granted the whole Me Too movement, like that shit is powerful, man. It shapes everybody's perception. So it's almost like women are getting the upper hand in our society. A woman can make any kind of complaint or report, and boom. That's it for the man. If it's a man who on the other end of that complaint, that's it for your ass, dude. Like, they don't care. They throwing your ass away, you know? So I guess he kind of was in this position where he just, bad timing, man. Bad timing. Bad timing for him, I guess, to bring this cultural artifact, something that represents who he is, this sword, and for him to even try to make a connection with her in the parking lot. to explain himself or to say his side of the story, because there was an emotional discussion in its intercultural processes class, as it is always. Like, those classes get pretty heated because it's people from different cultures, and you can just imagine. Because like they say, what happens in these classes are a microcosm of what's happening in our society, in our world. So we talk about all these triggering topics and stuff, and just all these emotions start to come up. And then a lot of times what's discussed in class is not settled in class. It kind of, overflows to outside of class, in a hallway, in a parking lot. And I'm assuming that's just simply just what happened, right? And, the conflict, I would assume, could have been resolved just by the discussion, or that he was trying to attempt to make the connection. But apparently, no. She just like, I feel this way, And it's not to undermine her feelings. Because some people may watch this and be like, oh, you don't care about her feelings. No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying it's important to hear both sides of the story. We can't just run with one person just because it's a female who's vulnerable and be like, okay, No, attend to both sides. But I guess logistically, and politics obviously plays a role in this, the program saw a need to dismiss him, hear her side of the story, and grant her wish, And not only was he dismissed, but they took it a whole nother level and increased security at our school. Like, we have to go through certain measures now to go see our advice and our professors that we didn't have to go through before. All because there was this heightened sense of insecurity, that was brought as a result of this incident, her reporting him. Where I guess even the professors felt some kind of way, because they're like, okay, we dismissed this kid from the program. He's all emotional, and that's a catch-22, because in the program they encourage us, oh, be emotional, express yourself, don't inhibit your emotions. If you inhibit your emotions, then you're being fake and you're being emotionally blunted. So they want to say, they encourage us to do that, and then when we do, it's like it's a catch-22. It's a trick, man. It's a trick. And I guess they assume, like, okay, he was, being himself and trying to maybe articulate his point of the story. And there they go. And implement this heightened security on top of dismissing him from the program. And it changed everything. The whole security thing. We had security guards, like all this extra stuff going on. And so I'm like, I find it interesting. Apparently, from that, they had assumed that this kid was going to come back and do something crazy. That's what I guess they had assumed. Like, he was going to come back and retaliate because he was dismissed from the program. And what I told the student who told me this was, honestly speaking, and this don't just go for that particular situation, but y'all, it's common sense. This is common sense. If a person wants to do something, they're going to do it. Nothing can stop a person from doing anything. We saw that in the case of 9/11. Rest in peace to the victims. Just because I talk on this subject and I'm about to go really deep about the psychology of terrorism, I just hope y'all don't assume that, oh, she's siding with the terrorists. No, it's just to help the world understand this whole thing about terrorism. And I'm pretty sure it's probably already literature out there about terrorists, and which I have not actually reviewed, by the way. So this is completely my take on it and my perception without even reviewing any kind of literature on the psychology of terrorism. But I'm just saying, if a person wants to do something, they're going to do it. And it's nothing that can stop them from doing that. No matter how many walls I put up or whatever. Because humans have this amazing, immaculate ability to just exceed and do above and beyond what the conscious mind can even comprehend sometimes. It's just like, that's why we're like, wow, they did that. Like, wow, The mind is amazing, you guys. So never underestimate a person and what they're capable of doing. But I get it, those security measures were put in place to make us feel safe, right? But on one hand, I'm, as a student at the school, I'm like, I don't know if that really makes me feel safe, seeing all these locked doors and all these security guards and all these extra security measures, because it's like, at first I wasn't even concerned about my security, my safety. Now I am seeing all this stuff because obviously it's a reason for it, you know. So even around that time, it wasn't just me, but other students kind of felt a little bit insecure and unsafe, just seeing all those extra security measures, when before it was not even a concern, not even on our conscious mind. And thinking about 9/11 and what happened, you know, 9/11, many years, was that 17 years ago that happened? We went 2018. Yeah, dang, it's been a while. And I was a senior in high school when it happened. That was devastating, man. You know, devastating for the victims. And we've seen so many stories about the victims. But what about the people who actually committed the act, and trying to understand their mind? Not just excuse the criminal behavior, because it's still a crime to commit a terrorist act, but to get to the psychology of their mind, you know. And some people I know, I actually have heard some people talk about how in some religions, how it's an honor to go out like that. You know, especially if you're going out for your religion, it's like it's part of your identity to go out like that if you're doing it for a noble cause. And to them, that's a noble cause. They're fighting for a noble cause. But I'm like, I think it goes even deeper than the noble cause. Because when you have countries who are fighting at war, a lot of times it's just about power, man. Power and control. Something that I know about very well. Power and control. And when people feel disempowered, it's amazing what they will do when they feel disempowered. I mean, we've seen it on a micro level with people who are abusers, who engage in acts of domestic violence. A lot of times they're doing it because they feel disempowered, a lack of control. That's their way of regaining control. And we can go psychodynamic and say, well, it comes from their childhood. Maybe there's a point in their childhood where they felt like they were at a loss of control. So now they finally have somebody up under their cusp that they can manipulate their mind and their emotions and their behavior and control them, and that gives them a sense of power in the situation on the level of domestic violence. But on a major level, when you have leaders who are committing these acts of terrorism, it's about power and control. On a societal level, when countries win wars and they gain this control, it can mean independence, which impacts many people. You know, like it impacts the whole entire country. When a country is independent, just think about what independence means. You know, and it's unfortunate that it has to go and result in that kind of thing where lives are killed, and you know, that's very unfortunate that it has to. People have to go through those measures and take those means to gain this power that gives them a sense of independence, a sense of control. But unfortunately, that's the nature of the game. And some people just don't get it. Like, why are we at war? And I can kind of understand war and politics. I know some of y'all watching is like, oh, you a woman, what you know about that? You know, you shouldn't be talking about that. But hey, some things just interest me. My mind works a lot differently, and I find myself interested, I guess, in things I should not be interested in, you know, but it interests me. Here I am. What time it is? It's like 9, almost 10 o'clock, 4 minutes of 10, and I'm talking about wars, you know, and terrorism. But this, I think, is a very relevant topic because it goes over a lot of people's head, and the people just like, oh, that's wrong. Those are evil people. And it's just like, take away all of that, those labels about evil people, and just look at them as people. Because I even remember my professor saying this. He said this, and I give him his credit. You know, it's the same one that want to try to call me out and talk about this and that and the other that I made the video about earlier today. Y'all go back and watch that. But, you know, I remember at the beginning of the semester, he was just like, we kind of saw eye to eye. Like, we don't disagree on everything, you know. Like, he said some things that resonate with me because I'm like, I said the same thing. And it's interesting, even today, it happened today, where I swear he said the exact words that I said in my video. Now, granted, I made my video before I went to class. I'm like, how are we that in sync? Like, is he watching my videos? I doubt it, because I made my video right before class, and I doubt it. He's like, come on, I doubt that. So we have to have this synchronization somehow where I make this video and I say these, I'm telling y'all, our words were the exact same about that you cannot think that you know somebody, you can place them because you just don't know a person till you, like, I swear, and he came out in class and said the same exact thing. I'm like, damn, we do it, we can agree on certain things. And even like at the beginning of the semester, he was talking about just understanding people, and, you know, even the people who commit the most heinous acts, like the most terrifying, disgusting, shameful acts. He was like, if you can just do away with the labels and just look at a person for who they are, a human being, and understand that given certain situations, you would be capable of committing those same acts. He said at the beginning of the semester, I'm like, damn, that's my philosophy too. I think the exact same way. That's the exact same way I think, you guys. And that's how I'm able to connect with people. That's how I have empathy for people. And I think that's the reason why I got so offended when my supervisor was like, oh, you lack empathy. I'm like, if anything, I think I have a lot of empathy. Empathy for people that y'all, I'm sure, don't have no empathy for. You know, so I know I definitely have empathy, and that's never been my weakness, to have empathy for someone. But I think it's just interesting because it's like a lot of people don't have empathy for terrorists. They don't have empathy because they don't want to. They're afraid. And they've got so consumed with labeling terrorists and saying that they're criminals and that they're evil, that's why there's a disconnect. And that's why you can be walking amongst a terrorist and you won't even know that that person is a terrorist. That's where they can seep in and infiltrate our society, because they hide. And they hide. Why? Because those labels. You know, and people judge them, and you call them criminals and you call them evil, you know, so they have to go in disguise and all that kind of stuff, you know. And we have some terrorists that, I mean, it's obvious, a lot of people look at our president as a terrorist, you know. He's like terrorizing people psychologically. Now, he hasn't, I guess, physically dropped a bomb on anybody in America, but psychologically he has, and with all these threats and stuff like that. And even him, it's interesting because when people talk about President Trump, I come from a different perspective. I'm sitting here listening as people talk about President Trump. And even he was elected the same year I started my program. And I always say, I'll be done with my PhD about time President Trump finishes first term. And I say first term very confidently, because I'm like, he gonna do 2 terms. I mean, if Obama did 2 terms, he gonna do 2 terms. Like, with as much money and power as this man has, y'all think he gonna just do 1? I think he loving it too much. He loving his role as president way too much. He likes the attention. People already label him as a narcissist, so we know narcissists just like the attention. They so into themselves. And although he's like the most hated man in the entire world, everybody is talking about him. Like, his popularity has increased way higher than what it was before he became president. He was already popular before he became president, but his name is just like everywhere now, obviously. And I think part of that, even though it's negative attention that's attached to that, Donald Trump likes that. He likes it because he's like, he's the man. Everybody talking about me, you know. And that's why he be saying all this crazy stuff, because he know that it's gonna aggravate people. And then, believe it or not, some people are just sadists. Some people get off on getting underneath people's skin, knowing that they have that control. And I remember when I was living in Jacksonville, Florida, there was this saying that I heard, I think on the radio or maybe in church somewhere, that he who angers you controls you. And some people know that. Some people who are obsessed with control, they know that. They know it like the back of their hand. Like, if I can anger this person, then I control them. And they take advantage of that control, unfortunately. It's unfortunate. But it's the truth, you guys. It's the psychology of this thing. He knows that he's getting underneath people's skin. Y'all think he know that? And the more people hate on him, they make all these memes and, making fun of him and, put him under the bus. That don't bother him because he knows he's getting underneath y'all's skin. If anything, he probably sleeping with a smile on his face at night like, I got them. He's got y'all right where he wants y'all. Because a person that can manipulate a person's emotions, as Donald Trump has done very successfully with this country, got everybody mad. He knows that just as much as he can make y'all mad, he can make y'all happy. He got y'all, man. He got y'all attention. Number one, Donald Trump has the entire world's attention. And like, as I was saying, when he was elected president, I remember people like, I wonder who's going to win. And they just was so unsure about who won. I'm like, I know who won. Donald Trump is going to win. And then when he won, my cousin was like, girl, how did you know that? Like, they thought like I was like psychic or something. I'm like, really? Y'all, this is not rocket science. I hate to be like so facetious and make it seem like it's nothing, but y'all, some things are just common sense, at least to me. And I'm like, it should be common sense to y'all. Y'all know this is America. Y'all don't get the name of the game. Capitalism. Capitalism wins. Money wins. Whoever has the most money wins, you guys. It's common sense. This man is a billionaire. Like, he got a lot of money and a lot of power and influence. So, of course, he's going to win the presidency. Now, is it say it doesn't make the best president? I disagree with that. I mean, it's obvious, lesson learned, that a billionaire, especially one who is so narcissistic, obviously don't make the best leader in many people's eyes. He just doesn't, because he comes from a different background. We have more people in America who are suffering. It may seem like, to other people from the outside looking in, that, we're just the most powerful country, we're rich, we're doing great. Hell no. A lot of Americans are struggling, even the so-called middle class or the upper class. They struggling living paycheck to paycheck. Barely can afford to keep up with their mortgage. Kids out of control, got mental illness, all this stuff going on, man. It's a lot going on in America, And with Donald Trump having so much money, it's like a lot of shit that's going on in America that you can't identify with. He come from a totally different background. So it's like, how can we choose this person to become the leader of a country that's suffering, as most of us is poor? Even the middle class, like I say, even the so-called rich, they ass broke too. They just a different kind of broke. And he don't identify with that. This man is in the top 1%. Top 0.05%. Like, this man is up there. So he doesn't identify with that. And so when people cry out, these different segments of the population cry out and be like, he don't help black people. He don't help Latinos. He don't do... Why? He don't give a fuck. That doesn't resonate with him. Does that make sense? That doesn't... Because he's like, okay, if I got all this, then why can't everybody else? He can't think from a different person's perspective, unfortunately, because that's not his frame of reference. If a person is raised a certain way, sometimes it's difficult for them to be able to step outside their shoes and see it from a different perspective, because that's just not their reality. They never had that experience. They never had that reality. Yes, not to say that his life is perfect and he doesn't have problems and struggles, of course, but it's just different than most American struggles. And so he just can't identify with us, as a general population. He can't. I mean, we talking about a man who, when he was younger, his dad gave him a so-called loan, like I think it was $10 million, however many $1 million, That's an amount that many of us will never be able to identify with. Talking about our parents gave to us on a so-called loan that his ass probably didn't even pay back. Or maybe he did because he just got so much wealth now. But, I mean, it's still part of the family legacy, you know? So it's like, the man he can't relate, you know? And I'm this way. I'm more of a realist, so to speak. Because even in my class, like, we're talking about this whole thing about trust, and we're discussing confidentiality, and, you know, some of my classmates asked me, like, oh, do you trust? I think, no, my professor asked me, like, something about, do I trust people or something? I'm like, I trust people to be who they are. Like, I don't get it. Why do people have these high expectations, like sky high mountain expectations of people? You just trust a person to be who they are. I don't set high expectations on a person because why? People are people. That's not to say that that's a bad thing. It's just I see people for who they are. I don't judge people. You know, I know people are people, man. And Donald Trump is a person. He has flaws like anybody else. You know, and people put somebody on a pedestal expecting him that he's going to do this and save the world. Same thing with Obama. It's just like, it don't work that way. And he's working within the system that's already designed, already set up. So you can't expect a person who's hired as CEO of a company just to come in there and change the whole goddamn company around. Unless they own the company, which they don't. They just hired to manage that company. That's it. That's it. And so, going back to the whole idea of terrorism and considering our President Donald Trump and how a lot of people just are attacking him. Yes, on one hand, it could give him a sense of gratification because he's like, everybody's talking about me. You know, that's like the narcissistic side. But at the same time, I said over and over again, he's a human being. And the thing about human beings, we have feelings, man. Human beings are vulnerable. That's our nature. A human being only can take but so much. So my biggest question, you know, is not so much, oh, what can Donald Trump do for us, My question is, when is this shit gonna fucking unfold? Because I know this shit gotta go down because he's been on attack for so long. And a person can only take but so much. And I can see how these attacks gonna amount to something where he gonna retaliate. He like, all right, y'all got all this shit y'all saying about me. He gonna sit there and let it, you know, go on and fester and fester and fester. But coming from a mind of a person who was born in riches and wealth, you know, always kind of had this sense of power and control, like really probably don't even know what it means to be disempowered up until now where he's under all these attacks, but he still don't really sense it. He may be experiencing a sense of disempowerment, but he can't control the media. And that's another thing. Like, listen to the man. He keep talking about, oh, that's fake media. And y'all laugh. But I'm like, seriously, though. I done heard this man make posts on Twitter, oh, don't listen to the media. It's fake media. And yes, it's a joke when he say that, but it's not really a joke. Like, I think he's taking offense to the media portraying him in a certain way because, yes, he's a man who has power and wealth and all of that, right? And yes, on one hand, one can make the argument that, you know, that sense of power and being able to manipulate people's emotions gives him a sense of power. But on the same token, I'm like, nah, you know, nobody likes to be under attack like that, you know, especially have your character assassinated. And when you have this sense of, oh, I'm Donald Trump, you know, he has his own word, the Trump card, you know, it's like, this man got his own word, got all these freaking buildings that he owns and stuff. Like, so obviously respect is important to him. That's a part of his identity. People having respect for him and honor for him and him being in control and having a sense of power. That's a part of his identity. So when you come in and take that, disempower that person, snatch that power away from them, and he don't feel like he has no control over the media, it's almost like the people have turned against him. Same thing what they do with celebrities. They build you up and they will tear your ass down. I think that's what he's maybe experiencing when he be like, that's fake news. He's trying to dismantle the propaganda that has came against him. Everybody got something to say about him. And but so much a man can take. And for him a person that feels disempowered, like I say, the mind of a terrorist, they're going to find a way to get that power back. And we're talking about millions of people have been attacking him. So, like I say, my question is not, oh, what can he do for America? Because he going to do what he going to do, if he going to do anything, you know. My biggest question is, when is shit about to go down? God forbid. And what this shit going to look like? Because I got a sense that he going to retaliate. And with his power, the power that he has, he going to just be like, fuck all this shit. Y'all sit up here and want to call me the orange face man and make all these jokes and tell all these lies like he say, you know. It's fake news. To him, it's lies. The stuff that y'all saying about him. I got something for y'all. And in his mind, you know. He's probably thinking that. I got something for them. I'm going to show them. You know, and he may have many different ways to do it, but it's going to fuck up a lot of people, man. You know, that's the mind of a terrorist. And he wasn't necessarily born a terrorist. A baby is born, they're born, right? You know, they're innocent. Everybody's innocent when they're born. Cute little baby, you know. Want to kiss them and love them and pull their cheeks and stuff like that. But then they go through this socialization, this period in their life, many different periods in their life, you know, that lead them to that point of no return. It's just like, damn. And then some people's eyes, they're like, oh, I knew he was going to do that. I knew he was going to be a terrorist. He was born a terrorist. No, society make people who they are a lot of times. Yes, we have certain destinies, and we can make the argument of the archetype, which I talked about in another video. Y'all go back and watch that. My goddess archetype that I talked about. But socialization plays a huge role, man. You cannot take away environmental influences. And I'm just sitting up here trying to put myself in his shoes and like, dang, I know that has to be tough. Like, he's under a lot of pressure, a lot of stress. How he gonna handle it? He talking about a man that feeds off of power and talking about narcissistic. It's very self-consumed. He don't give a fuck about nobody. Like, fuck y'all. I'm worried about me. That's his perspective. So it don't matter if he committed a terrorist act, whatever that could look like. It could look like a number of things. Him implementing these policies that's gonna fuck over a lot of people. Or him just saying, fuck it. You know? Pulling 9/11. Anything. Hiring somebody else to do it. He ain't got to do it, but he can make it happen. We talking about a man that got all this power. Y'all don't let that man sit up here and force that man to abuse that power that he has. And a lot of people say, oh no, we can't make him do nothing. Yes, you can. Don't sit up here and undermine the impact that society influences has on a person. That's sociology. It's the psychology of a person's mind, but then there's sociology that impacts that person's psychology, man. That's all I'm trying to say. Don't do that. And that goes for other people from other countries, part of other religions. Respect them. Respect that person. You may disagree with their policies, you may whatever, but respect goes a long way. Treat them as a human being who has oxygen and blood in their body and shit just like you and I. You know? You go and start taking other people's power. That's what they do. They're going to say, you know what? This ain't about religion. This ain't about evil or good. This is about survival. A person going to survival mode. And when we know what that look like, that's like animals out in the wild. They ain't think about, oh, well, let me do what's morally right. Let me do what I think God, what would Jesus do? Fuck that. Their religion is survival. It's survival mode. You don't push a person into survival mode by taking away their dignity, treating them like animals and disrespecting them, taking away their power, disempowering them. That goes on a macro level with respect to politics and war, and even on the micro level. Don't do that to people, man. And that takes me back to the story I told you guys in the beginning about the student. It's just like, I just wish that my school would have handled that situation differently so that it's fair for everyone involved. Like, stop creating these terrorists. Thinking about the kids in school. I mean, the bombings, and the kids go to school and just be like, fuck it. You know, and some people say, oh, well, a person who's bullied, you can't say that bullying causes a person to commit suicide or bullying causes a person to commit a terrorist act. It contributes, it's a huge factor. It's a huge factor, along with people maybe not having the ego capacity, the support that they need, you know, to deal with these attacks or feelings of isolation that they endure at these schools, you know. And so they just be like, fuck it. Nobody understand me. This is my way of gaining power. Don't stop disempowering people. Y'all wonder why my focus is on positive psychology. I can't emphasize that enough, because people know what's wrong with them, man. People know they have problems. People know things ain't going right. And I think in psychology, oftentimes they just want to come up with these labels. Oh, well, we need these labels so that it can make people feel better and they can know what they have so we can treat it. Yes, that's one rationale, but it's way more effective to focus on the positive traits in a person and empower them. I'm all about that. Empower, give a person power. Don't take away their power. Don't make them feel disempowered. And unfortunately, like the way we're trained in psychology as clinicians is sometimes it's not good, you know, because it does make the person feel disempowered. Now, granted, when they're talking about their story, right, because that's part of it, the beginning of therapy is we got to collect information. So with that, it's like a person is re-traumatized all over again. They got to go back and tell you all this shit that they done been through in their life, you know, and that can be disempowering. I've seen it, and I felt for clients like that even recently, you know. They start breaking down, crying, telling me their story, you know, and they just can't take it. So it's too much for them to have to relive that shit. They already lived it, now they gotta live it again in therapy just to get help. You know, and of course you have theorists that swear by like, no, they need to do that, because how else will we know how to treat them? We can't go in and prescribe a treatment, you know, just as a doctor wouldn't go in and prescribe a certain kind of medication if they haven't properly assessed the situation to see, okay, what is going on in this person's body. Same thing with a person in therapy and mental health. Have to assess what is going on in this person's life, but I feel like it gotta be other ways to do it, you know. Yes, it's important to assess and see what's going on, but it's also, with that assessment, we gotta balance that shit out with empowering too. Empower them, and I try to do that in many different ways. Give people the encouragement that they need, man, support. But therapy, I mean, honestly, therapy only goes but so far, because a person may come to therapy 1 hour a week. Usually that's tradition, that's how it is, like 1 hour a week, right? Unless they're in psychodynamic or getting psychoanalyzed, and they may come 3-4 sessions a week. That's like 3-4 hours a week. But that's different. That's not usually. Usually it's like 1 hour a week. So I'm like, what's that going to do compared to their environment? The environment weighs a lot more heavily on that person's psyche than the therapist that has them for 1 hour. That's like assuming that, okay, a kid goes to see a therapist for 1 hour, but they going right back to the same environment, you know, or right back into the same school. Like, that's not going to do that much difference, you know. That's why you have people who want to create these schools, these residential programs where these kids can go and they get deeply immersed into a totally different way of being. You know, they get indoctrinated into a new system, because the system that they was living in at home is just garbage, you know. So it's like therapy can only go but so far. And before I end this video, I just don't know. I figure like it has to be a better way as a society we could help people, man, and stop trying to take away people's power and make them feel disempowered. And amazingly, ironically, as I speak about disempowering, and I think about race, because y'all know my dissertation research, you know, focuses on race and implicit racial bias. And I said this even on my Facebook post, like, it's amazing how as much shit as black people have been through, that we kind of stable. It's amazing how stable we are, like mentally stable. we ain't trying to organize and go kill white people or get revenge. Like, if anything, we're very forgiving. We're very forgiving of the past and slavery and all of that, and even what's going on now. It went away, you know. We still suffering at the hands of white supremacy. But we're so forgiving. We just very calm and we collect. And I think it scares the shit out of white people, to be honest. And that's why I think the FBI came up with this shit, black extremism. Not because black people are extreme, but because they fear what they know probably should happen. They're like, okay, how the hell black people going through all these protests, and they getting killed by the police, but they ain't did nothing. And you know, of course, the government, they always got to be like 20 steps ahead of everybody. CIA, FBI, all of them. So they got to think ahead, and they just preparing just in case. Like, this is just in case, you know, they decide they want to somehow come together and organize and get revenge, which ain't gonna happen. Black people, that ain't happening. That is not happening. It ain't happened yet. It ain't gonna happen. Now, there may be isolated events of black people losing it, like the man they say happened on Long Island Railroad train. He lost and started killing white people. You know, the Nat Turner thing, like just different random, you know, isolated events that is not organized. Ain't like, okay, they all on the same team doing this. It's just kind of random, and it's very few far in between. It's sporadic. It's sparingly. It's not something that's happening frequently, you know. And I think that's what they fear. Like, what if black people just somehow, the Ogun spirit come up in them, and they just somehow get together and want to go off and kill white people? That shit ain't happening. Black people, and I think, amazingly, as it's interesting as I talk this out with you guys, in my research, I've done my lit review on slavery and stuff. It's amazing that hasn't happened. And when we talk about post-traumatic slave syndrome, coined by Dr. Joy DeGruy, I hope I'm pronouncing her last name right, spelled Gruy. And we talk about the slave syndrome. On one hand, it's a bad thing, but everything ain't always bad. On the one hand, it's a good thing. The whole slave mentality, and, you know, black people kind of may not be walking around calling white people masters, but they kind of still have this level of respect for white people, like kind of like they know their place, so to speak. You know, that's been internalized and passed down. On one hand, black people who are like the revolutionaries, like, no, we don't need to do that. Black people need to rise up, you know who they is, and rise up in their true African identity, and do away with the slave mentality. But on the other hand, you think about it in the context of terrorism, it could be a good thing that black people are more docile, you know, and they turn to religion and God for support. And basically, church has become like a stabilization unit, you know, in mental health terms. You know, stabilization units basically are psychiatric hospitals where people go and get stabilized. They usually get put on medication, 72-hour hold, you know, just so that their mood can stabilize and they not all over the place and trying to harm themselves or harm somebody else. So church, metaphorically speaking, has become that stabilization unit where black people are stable. We good. Ain't messing with nobody. None of that. If anything, we kind of turn it in on ourselves, you know, doing harm to ourselves. But the idea of black people coming together and, oh, we gonna kill white people. Now, you do have black people that say that's the solution to the problem. But like I say, those people are very few far in between. Black people ain't thinking along those lines. And like I say, it's a benefit to that because God knows what the hell that shit will look like. And a lot of us will die. Because realistically speaking, we don't have no army. White America, they got a strong, like our army supposed to be the strongest army in the whole world. The strongest military in the whole world is the U.S. Army, right? So, and they got all kind of freaking divisions. It ain't just the U.S. Army, Marines, and the Navy. They got the motherfuckers in the sky, the Air Force, everywhere. You know, all kind of secret militant groups. So, there's no way black people can, how the hell we gonna combat that? Only way we combat that is by some supernatural shit called spirituality. And that's like more like the peaceful way of doing it, because no blood is shed really. So that's, I guess, the way we combat that, and that's the way we've been combating that, and that's the peaceful way. War ain't always got to be about blood, and people getting killed. Like they say, you can love a person and still win the war just through love. It's just a different strategic way of going about it. And it's like kind of like a win-win situation, I guess, for both sides, because white people get to still survive and, I guess, maintain their supremacy in terms of political power, economic power, and black people still alive. We still making families, we getting married, having babies, buying homes, going to Disneyland, and traveling to Africa, and pretty much doing everything white people doing, and sometimes even more. You got white people look at us and like, damn, they doing better than us, and white people are supposed to have all this privilege, so it's kind of like a win-win situation. It's more a peaceful reaction to that. And on that note, yeah, gotta empower us, and sometimes some black people may feel that white people haven't apologized, or they haven't done much to make amends for what happened in history, but in kind of so many ways they kind of have done some things, because it could be worse. That's how I look. It can be terribly worse, and we can be way more fucked up than what shit is now. No, the playing field has not been completely leveled, where we're like here, and a lot of that has to do with our numbers, our proportion. Like, we only 12% of the population. So of course, with that, they're gonna have more political power because there's more of them. If it was more of us, we probably would have more political power and economic power. But it's just the name of the game. There's more. They got more on their side, so to speak, than on our side. And then they making these efforts to integrate us and treat us all the same, and all these government programs that a lot of black people living off of. If it wasn't for welfare, a lot of black people would not be able to survive. It'd be fucked up. Wouldn't even know how to take care of their families, unfortunately. But that ain't all of us, because some of us got grind. They know how to grind and get it, but some people just are dependent. That's their mentality. Just have this sense of dependency and helplessness, and they do expect, I guess, not just helplessness, but maybe entitlement too. More like an empowering term. So it ain't always about, oh, woe is me, I need the master to come save me. It can be, hey, you owe us, motherfucker. So pay for my rent. Waive my rent so I only pay $2 a month type of stuff. It's black people got many different kind of mentalities, and perspectives. So we can't think we know black people like the back of our hands, and all black people are the same, because no, we don't all think the same. Everybody think differently. But yeah, I think that's pretty much what I had to say on this topic of psychology of terrorism. It's just really about empowerment. Stop snatching away people's power because they have their way of regaining their power. And it's kind of, I'm pretty sure y'all probably already know that, but that's like my own flavor that I had to add to this topic. I'm wondering, so like every time I hit finish, I'm like, damn, I should have said that. It's always something that pops up. You guys are mighty quiet. I don't know who's watching. Facebook doesn't tell me who's watching, so I have no clue. But if you're not afraid, you can say hello. I don't bite. I may engage you, but I don't bite. And if you're watching, feel free to share your thoughts below. Like, what do you think about terrorism? I know some people, they just are bored. They're like, ugh, I hate terrorists, But if only we could just be peacemakers. If only the world were that easy, huh? I just wish that y'all kind of give Donald Trump a break a little bit, and all these attacks. Now don't just go for him. That go for anybody under attack. It's like, get off people, man. Stop, ganging up on people, bullying them. Bullying people is wrong, no matter who it is. And some people think, oh, they deserve to be bullied. Nobody deserves to be bullied, man. We're all human beings, And when that victim of bullying decides they want to regain their power and turn around and do some shit, then it's just like, not to say that it's right, But it's to say you can understand why. Because this will happen. Cause and effect. Y'all forget cause and effect. People just think, oh, it's all that person. But if you keep doing this to a motherfucker, or if you keep snatching a person's shit away and take away their sense of identity and livelihood, I'm going to end on that note. Love you guys. I will catch you guys later. And don't be misinterpreting what I say, because I know some of y'all notorious for that. Oh, she said this. She said she sympathized with the terrorists. Let me go. Bye, y'all.